Here's the question, guys. Whose performance in the Bellator MMA Heavyweight Grand Prix semifinals was more impressive? Bader over Mitrione, Fedor over Sonnen. Go first, Richard.
I would think it's Bader without question. I mean, that was just, you know, to have a shutdown, a systematic shutdown of somebody that is not only as good as Matt Mitrione and as much of a threat as Matt Mitrione, but is somebody who has made it all the way to the finals, and then to, I mean, I don't want to say it looked like he didn't belong in there. It was just a style matchup nightmare for him. But to be able to walk away with that kind of dominance, I don't think there's any question to it. It's got to be Ryan Bader.
Goes.
It's a nightmare of a question. When you're breaking down the Fedor-Chael fight, you got to say, all right, well, what if Chael gets him where he wants him? And he was able to do that a few times. But at the end of the day, it's still a middleweight challenging one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. As where the flip side is Ryan Bader's a smaller guy challenging a heavyweight, and he completely dominated him. So I got to go with Ryan Bader.
Dan Tom.
Man, I can't argue with either of those points. You know, from the size point of view to the tactics and Bader as a fighter and where he's kind of come. And I've been high on Bader coming into this tournament, and I was definitely impressed. But I'll go with Fedor, and here's why. I think that none of us were really surprised to see that Bader could out wrestle a guy, even a bigger guy like Mitrione, whereas I think more of us were surprised, as great as Fedor is, and he carries that GOAT status with many people, especially hardcores, you know, from long years past. I would argue that the temperament on Fedor, that it wasn't that high. People weren't predicting him to do that well, and I think that he's shown that even though he's older, that his speed and his timing, his veteran savvy, all those things are still intact, and this is a very winnable Grand Prix for Fedor. And I'm not sure even if Fedor fans were saying it at the start of this, so I'll go ahead and say Fedor.
Yeah, and I'm with you too, because I'm penciled in as one of the ones that took Sonnen when we broke it down early last week. So yeah, I had Bader advancing over Mitrione, but I also had Sonnen. I thought he'd have that moment where he could get the takedown and stifle Fedor and do it for the necessary 2 out of 3 rounds and get out of there with his hand raised. Of course, that never happened. Fedor just looked great. Fedor just, I mean, he knocked him down 4 times. That's who I go with. But the masses agreed with Richard and goes. Almost 800 votes came in. Bader and Mitrione, 54%. Fedor over Sonnen, 46%. So it was pretty close, but yeah, you guys get the nod there. So that's our daily debate, brought to you by the MMA Junkie Radio team and Richard Hunter from Phone Booth Fighting Podcast.